Hey everybody, welcome to CS202 assignment 6. And for this assignment, we're going to be developing our custom string class. And as you can see, Patrick is going to be here also to help us out, most likely help us fix any memory leaks in this program. So, as you know, the string class in the previous CS course is that class that maintains a list of characters. So up to this point, the string class might have been thought of as this magic class that just works. It automatically resizes itself whenever you reassign a new string to a string variable and so forth. So for this program, we're going to just develop this string class ourselves to see, to appreciate, how nice it is that somebody else developed a string class earlier for us to use. So let's go ahead and get to the actual details of this class. Okay, so here is the string class, and I called it myString so that way it won't cause any confusions with the predefined string class in C++. So for the private members, I'm going to first talk about these. So we have this char star s. That's going to be a dynamic array of characters. So that's going to actually hold the string inside of this object, myString. Then S length is going to be the length or the size of the array that S is going to point to. Now in this PDF, I do provide you with a list of all the explanation for every member of this class. And of course, you can read through this on your own, but I'd rather just not really just read this to you, but instead just sort of give an alternative explanation to all these members. So we first have our constructors in our class, which I will go over them in a little bit. And then we have our bracket operator, which is going to be used to access an element inside of our, or access a character inside of our S array. This getter function length, which will just return S length, so that's pretty simple. Then we're going to have our assignment operators, because remember, since we do have a pointer in our class, S, that points to an array, we want to make sure that we do correctly implement a deep copy assignment operator. Then we have these three plus operators, which are going to be the string concatenation operators, and they all kind of behave the same, so you can, of course, find a way to reuse some of the functions, not have to keep recreating them from scratch, which I will go over in a little bit. Then we'll also have the plus equal operator as well, which remember plus equal is going to concatenate, and then of course also assign as well. So it's going to do both. And then we have our comparison equals operator, our destructor, because we need a destructor for our class since we do have a dynamic memory allocation with our S pointer. Then we have our two friend functions, operator plus. These are the cases where, well, remember from the operator loading, if you have, let's say, an object plus a const character array, then you call the plus operator right here. Now the friend function, the purpose is if you have a non-myString object, then the plus sign, then the myString object, then you're going to call these friend functions. And then of course we have our input and output operators to overload as well. So let's go ahead and just go through each of these members step by step. Let's first begin with our constructors. So for the default constructor in this class, that's a relatively simple one to write. So for default constructor, all you would do is set the character pointer S equal to a null pointer, and then set S length equal to 0. Just it creates an empty object. Now let's go ahead and focus on this constructor. So the second constructor you see there, we have myString const char str bracket. So in that case, suppose in main you were to define a class or an object, like this. So we have myString, our object will be called object, and we pass in a string literal Sunday into this constructor. So const char str is going to be a string literal. So in the actual function body, or the constructor's constructor body, that parameter str is going to just be that string literal. So Okay, right here we can see that, okay, well, there's going to be indices 0 through 5, and there's 6 characters in a string, but for an array, there is no dot length. So how do we actually get the length of this string? Well, luckily in C++, all string literals are going to be null terminated, which means that when you hit that null character, you went beyond the bounds of your string. So in order to count the length of this string, all you'd have to do is just maybe create a variable, which I'm going to say int I for right now. And then I'll use a while loop. So while str I is not equal to that null character, I'm going to just increment I by 1. So when I is 0, it will first look at this character, which is not null, it's the letter S. Okay, then it'll increment it by 1, I will be 1. That's not null character, neither is that, neither is that, neither is that, nor that. And then we go beyond the bounds of a string. The character right after the last character in a string will always be a null character. So then, of course, it would end this loop. So now you have the length of a string because I will contain that length. And there's no other shortcut. You can't really get the length without traversing until you hit that null character. And also, I provide this code at the end or at the bottom of the PDF, or right after I have the description of all the class members. I write this code there as well, but I wanted just to kind of go over it here in a video as well. So of course, I would contain the value 6. So now you know what the string length is. All you have to do is allocate an array, a new character array of length I, because I will tell you how many characters you have in str, and then just simply write a for loop to copy each character of str into this character array S. That part is pretty simple. So that's that. Now for the copy constructor, well, that's just going to be your generic copy constructor. So when we pass the myString object as a parameter into the function, you copy the lengths, then you do a deep copy of that object's S field with the this object's length, or sorry, S field. So it's just a standard deep copy. Then your last constructor you have right there, that's the case if you pass in a single character as an argument into this constructor. In that case, all you have to do is set the length to 1. You set s equal to new char index, so you have a character array of size 1, and then copy that character into the index 0 position of s. So that's essentially your constructors for this class. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to now talk about the plus operator next. Okay, so let's go over the plus operator right now. And in this case, suppose we had the following code like this. So we declare a few objects of type myString. So we declare object 1 to contain sponge, object 2 to contain Bob, and then object 3 is our default object. So suppose we concatenate strings in the following way. So here we have a case where we have object 1 plus object 2, which is going to concatenate these two strings to return the string that contains SpongeBob, and it will assign it into object 3. Now, we'll go over the assignment operator in a little bit. I want to focus mostly on a plus operator. So the plus operator is going to simply just return a new object that simply concatenates their strings. So this returns SpongeBob. Now, if you have the case where you have an object plus a string literal, then this plus operator gets called, because you can see here that the right-hand side argument is going to be a character array. And of course, we also have another plus operator for the case if we have an object and we can concatenate it with a character. So of course, this function is called when we have this code written. Now also, we have our two friend functions where, what if we have a character literal, sorry, a string literal, then plus, and then a myString object? Well, then this friend function right here gets called. And what about the case if we have a character comes first, then the plus operator, and then an object? Then, of course, it's going to call this other friend function. So let's go ahead and now just talk about some of the details as to how to implement this plus operator. Okay, so suppose we have, this line of code in our main. We have object 3 equals object 1 plus object 2. So clearly this operator function is going to be called. So in this case, we're able to distinguish these two operands in this operator plus function. So the this pointer is going to refer to object 1. It's going to be the address of the object, because since it's a left-hand side operand, it's going to be the object that called the function. And of course, the RHS is going to refer to this object being passed in as a parameter. So using this and RHS, we're able to essentially distinguish these two operands in this plus operator function. So just always be careful, just remember, this and RHS are the two ways to distinguish these two operands, these two objects that are being used by this operator. So this function is not supposed to modify object 1 or object 2. So, didn't put this const keyword right there. So, this function, we're passing in the RHS object as a const reference parameter, so it's not going to be able to overwrite the contents in object 2. And likewise, since you have a const keyword right there, this function is going to be an accessor function, which means it's not going to be able to overwrite this object, which is good. We don't need either object 1 or object 2 shouldn't be modified after we finish this operator function. So the result is we're going to have to create a temporary object, which I'm going to just create it right here. So my string, I'm going to call it maybe just string. So concatenation string will be short for. That's going to be, this object is going to be the concatenation of object 1 and object 2. So the first thing we have to do is we have to set this string's length. Okay, so constring dot length is an equal to this length, so the length of object 1's string, plus RHS dot length. So we're going to take the length of object 1 plus the length of object 2, and that's going to be the length of the concatenated string. So we store the length in there. And then, of course, we have to set the size of the array. So we're going to say con string dot s equals new char. And the length will be, I'll try, I think I have to fit in 2 lines. So I'm going to say constring dot length. Sorry about cutting this off, but this will be 1 line. You take the length that's stored in constring and use that to set the size of this array. So now you have that. So what you have to do now is be able to concatenate these two strings together. So, I mean, while we're thinking about this, let me just go ahead and just draw out, so object 1 is going to contain the string SpongeBob. So let me just quickly put a block over here. So we're going to have that string right there. So the S, or its S pointer will point to this array right here. And then the other object 2, its S is going to point to this array of size 3, I believe. There we are. And it'll contain just a string Bob. Okay, so an easy way to approach this is, well, everything from object 1's S has to go into constring's S. So we just simply have to just deep copy everything from here into constring S. And then we have to go ahead and copy these these are 3 characters as well. We have to copy it into the index right after, well, after index 5 into constrings S array. So you simply just copy all of these characters into constring S, and these ones as well, but make sure you copy these right after index 5 of constring S. And then return constring object, and then of course back in main, the resulting object will be assigned to a myString object. So when I do this, it's going to take this entire result and then it's going to be assigned to object 3. It's going to then call the assignment operator, which we'll go over in a little bit. But really, it's just, we're going to have really 2 loops to copy these characters and make sure they don't overlap. So easy as that. Now, what about for other plus operators? So what about, let's say when I'm doing object 3 equals object 1 plus Robert. So we have Sponge Robert, which I guess that's probably his official legal name is Sponge Robert, not SpongeBob. So this case, again, you can copy and paste some code, but so like in this operator plus function right here, for when we have the const char bracket as your parameter, wouldn't you be able to maybe take this string literal and just use a constructor inside of the myString, inside of this plus operator, sorry. So for the other plus operator, where you have a const char bracket, I guess the parameter would be str. Actually, no, it's RHS actually. Well, you'd be able to actually, in that operator plus function, you could actually just use a constructor and pass this string literal into a myString constructor. And then you have this, then you have this temporary object, and you could be able to actually call this function in that function body. And same idea when you have, let's say, myString operator plus as your parameter will be a char. Couldn't you be able to take that character and just make a string object out of it by using this constructor right here? And then just calling this function right there? I mean, I don't know. That would be a nice trick. You could, of course, can copy and paste code, but that would be easier. And the same thing for these 2 functions right here, these friend functions. Again, you have either a string literal or a character literal on the left-hand side. Well, wouldn't you be able to just use a constructor within this plus operator to just create a myString object out of the literal and then just call this plus operator within that function body and this function body? So just saying, you could write this function and then all the plus operators, you can just take the parameters and use your myString constructors to create a string out of them somehow. And then every plus operator would only call just this function. So I'm not going to really, give out the code for that, but think about it. It's not so bad. So now let's go ahead and talk about the assignment operator next. Okay, so this will be a quick talk about the assignment operator, since I can imagine you probably covered this in your regular lecture courses. So for assignment operator, you have cases like this where you have an object 1 created, and of course you can assign object 2 into object 1. So whenever you have this scenario, you're going to actually call this assignment operator, where you have your right hand side is going to be a myString object. So of course you have to do a deep copy of object 2's S array into object 1. And likewise, you also have a case where, what if you do object 1 equals a string literal? Then the second assignment operator is called. And of course, the third one will be the case if you have a character equals, if a myString object equals a character. So they all behave very similarly. So again, you can, of course, copy and paste, but remember, you actually can reuse some functions because, well, these 2 functions, for example, these 2 function calls are very similar. I mean, you could inside of the assignment operator, you could take this string literal and convert it into a myString object by using the one of the constructors, maybe this one right there, to create an object, and then you essentially have two objects. And of course, you can just somehow call this assignment operator within this function, because they're very similar to each other. You just have to create an object out of this character array, but it's easy because you already have the constructor that can do that for you. So again, up to you. You can copy and paste code, or you can just simply can reuse. Now, the only thing to check for, there's a few edge cases, I guess. So the first edge case would be where, what if, like in this scenario, when you do this first assignment statement, this one right here, object 1 is a null, or its S array is a null. So you just simply have to just set this this pointer S's character array to equal to a new character array, and you just do a deep copy of object 2's S array into object 1. But what about in a case like this? So on this line of code, object 1 already contains an array inside of it. So if you just set object 1's S to point to a new character array and then copy the string goodbye into it, the issue is you just lost object 1's original string. So you have to be careful, because what if, let's say, what if object 1 already contains a string? You have to, deallocate that first before you set object 1's S to point to a new character array, and then do the deep copy. And of course, the last assignment operator is going to be the case where if you are copying sort of an object equals to a character. Now that would be a very easy statement to write. So now that you have the plus operator, let's say the plus operator written and the assign operator written as well, you actually, for these operators, a plus equal, well, plus equal is going to do an addition and assignment. So again, so when you have, let's say you have code like this, for example, if you do something like, let me just sort of wipe this out for right now. Let's pretend this didn't happen. So what if we do this? I can say, I guess, so set object, I guess, actually I'm going to go ahead and just pretend like this never happened. Let's just say for right now, we set object 1 equal to goodbye. It's all we did. So the first assignment never happened. So essentially we could do object 1 plus equal object 2. Object 2 contains hello. So object 1, the result has to be goodbye hello is going to be the result. So all you have to do, remember with the plus equal, all we're doing is we're saying this. We're just doing this basically. So all you have to do is take these two operands. So object 1, object 2, you simply have to concatenate them and then assign the result into object 1. Now remember, in the plus equal function body, star this is object 1 and RHS is object 2. So you could possibly use the plus operator and the equals operator to implement plus equal, because it's just really the combination of the two operators. So why copy and paste, reinvent the wheel? Just simply use the plus and equal operator. So just somehow, how can you write this statement inside of the plus equal operator function body? Well, RHS and star this is your big clue. Those are going to be your two objects that are being used. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discuss the bracket operator next. Okay, so for the bracket operator function, as you notice, it's operator bracket, and it's going to return a character by reference. And the purpose of it being by reference is that it will be able to reassign it potentially if you choose to do that in your program. And then this argument, this integer parameter, is going to be the actual number in this function call. So for example, right here, when I say cout object 0, it's going to output the character s. So this value 0 is going to be the value passed into this integer argument. So the number inside the bracket is going to be what this parameter represents. And it's going to return the character. It returns the character s, outputs s. And in this particular instance, if I say object index 1, it's going to return this character right here by reference, which will allow us to reassign it to the character p. So if I then cout the object, it's going to output spring. So that's essentially what we're doing. So all we have to do is this object is going to have this s array. So use return s at index, whatever index is passed into the function. So relatively simple. Now, of course, next function to go over is the equals equals operator. Now that one is relatively not so challenging. It's going to just simply compare two strings. So you're going to have a this object and the right hand side object, and you have to just simply, using a loop, you have to compare each character of one string with the other and return true if every character in the two string arrays are the same, and return false otherwise. Now, an easy check is, of course, if their lengths are different, then obviously they can't be equal. If they have the same length, you just have to simply just traverse the two strings from left to right, and once you find a mismatching character, at that point you know that the two strings are not the same. So I guess I didn't really draw this out, but relatively not so complicated. Then, of course, the length function, I might have mentioned this earlier, but just returns the s length. So the last thing I'm going to cover, or actually I'll first cover just this destructor. That one's simple, just deallocate the s array. So the last thing I'm going to cover is going to be these two input-output functions. Okay, so the last two operators are going to be the input and output operator. So when you say cin object, so object is a type of my string. We have to overload this operator in order to be able to read in a string the natural way you would read in any variable in C++. So when you say cin object, this function gets called. So this istream variable in is going to be cin in this case, and then object is going to be RHS. So we use istream variable, but of course, this gives us the option where in could be cin or it could be an input file stream. Now, for our assignment, we're not going to use input file stream. You're going to use console in cin, but this could be either cin or it could be sort of an input file stream. And the right-hand side always will be an object. So they're both passed by reference because whenever we read from the input file stream, the input file stream actually updates, so we have to pass by reference. And we have RHS also passed by reference as well because we're going to overwrite what's in RHS, which overwrites object back in main. So to do this input, all you have to really do is, you can, of course, create a character array. So char, let's say s, and make it really large. And of course, you can just, you can in s. And of course, s is going to be a null terminated string. So you have to exactly figure out how many characters were read from the input file, or from cin, or from whatever this istream variable in is, which could be cin or input file stream. You, of course, read it in like this. And then you have to figure out for this string s, you have to find where is that null character. Because that null character tells you where the end of the string is, which could be less than 256 characters. But I chose a really big value just to be safe. But the idea is that you have to loop through this string and find where that null character is. And of course, then you can just simply copy all the characters into RHS.s. Now, of course, you may have to deallocate RHS's s string first, and then allocate a new string to it and copy everything from s into RHS.s. But again, that's not really too hard because we know how to figure out where the end of the string is. We just simply loop until we hit that null character of s, and we count how many characters we saw before we hit that null character, which could be somewhere in the middle of this string. But the idea, once we hit that null character, we hit the end of the string that we read from the iStream. Then we just simply just deep copy that into RHS.s. Now for the cout operator, then this function gets called, where again, out could be cout or it could be output file stream. But in this instance, cout is going to be your out, and object is going to be your RHS parameter. So this one's pretty simple. All you have to do is just one by one output each character of RHS's s string. So just write a simple for loop and just one by one output each character one by one, and then return the OStream variable at the end. So in the iStream function, you have to return in at the end. You return out at the end of this function. But either way, I'm going to give you sort of the files, the implementation file you can use to kind of help you get going on this. So let's go ahead and now just go over some final remarks for the assignment. So for your final remarks in this assignment, I guess one is, of course, comment your code, make sure your program is memory leak free. And the big one is do not use any string library functions or C string library functions in this assignment that would defeat the purpose of the assignment. So just try to avoid using predefined string functions in this program at all. So let's go ahead and just talk about the files I'm going to give you. So we're going to have several main files I'm going to provide in the Canvas announcement or Canvas assignment. And essentially we have several mains. Each main tests out certain functions in your program. So for example, main 01 is going to test out just the plus operator. Now, of course, it also will test out the equals operator or the assignment operator as well. Now, you actually could do a shallow copy for now, just to test out your plus operators, so you don't have to worry about deep copying just yet. So you want to, of course, focus on each operator individually. So I would just suggest for now, just do a shallow copy of your objects with your assignment operator, just to see if everything's working correctly. And then, of course, towards the end, you can, of course, work on the deep copy assignment operator. But anyway, this is going to be one test main. And the other main will test out just the plus equal. Other one test out the friend function. So you can see that it's just testing out a few functions in your program. So I'm going to provide you with a Makefile, which is right over here. It's a rather hefty Makefile, but again, it's going to make life a little bit easier. So of course, you can type a make that will essentially compile all your, it will create several different main files. Let me go ahead and just show you how you would do this. So I'm going to go ahead and type make clean, since I already did test the Makefile out earlier. I'm just going to clean everything up first. Okay, if I type in the word make, it's going to just begin creating all of our exe files. So we're going to have 7 of them. And of course, you can compile all of them at one time. And there we are. So as you can see, on the left side right there, it was building up these files. So of course, I can do slash, let me see, what was the name of the files? I think it's going to be M0. Okay, so we have M0, M01. It runs your first program. Then, of course, M02, the second one, and so forth. So for the most part, these files aren't going to actually have too much input. The only main file that I'm using input in is the one that tests out the input and output operators. But of course, this is going to be testing out. So of course, main01 also uses output as well, so you can't avoid that. But one of them is going to just test out your input operator as well, which that one will have actual input. So I'm going to use these main 01 through 07 in code grade for testing purposes. So no really crazy edge case test, just some basic tests. So okay, now what if you don't want to have to compile every single exe every single time. Well, luckily, if you look at the Makefile, there's actually main01, main02, main03, and so forth. So you can do instead, let's say you want to just compile one of them. You can, of course, I'll just clean this all up so we can just see what happens. I could just type in make and then main04. And it will only just compile the fourth main file with your my string, and of course then ./m04. It runs that one. So you can type in make to compile all of them, or just type make and then whichever main you want to compile. And that's just going to compile it. It will just create only one executable file. So that's how you would use this. And of course, I'll provide you all the Makefile with all your mains. Your header file, I'm also going to give you an empty MyString implementation file as well, where you can just fill in the actual function bodies there. So that's sort of the end of this video. Hopefully the video did give you a nice overview of the assignment. So I guess happy coding, and until next time.